Hello and welcome back to the Bjorn Johnson Internet Program. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube, this short little video that I'm doing. I'm trying something new today. We'll see if it even makes it out. I'm recording the intro, but also have the camera going on me for a little video content because people have been asking for it. So you're just going to get the intro. If you want the full interview of the podcast, you're going to have to go over to northstar.net and click on subscribe to the podcast, or Bjorn to Sell. That works too. Any or all of the above will get you there. Anyhow, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in and listening. I hope you're enjoying this. It's been a lot of fun being back in the saddle doing this again. Before we get into today's interview with the great and amazing Justin Helmer, multiple time guest of the show, let's take care of a little business. All right, how's that sound? I'm on Twitter and Instagram at the North Star. No, I'm not. That's not it. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Bjorn to Sell. Old habits die hard. Holy cow, eh? Bjorn to Sell. That's the handle. That's also my Venmo handle. If you want to help subscribe. If you want to help support this show, you can go over there and donate a little bit. $3.50 a month really helps out a bunch. How much is $3.50? That's $3.50. We had one great contributor this month who donated that. And if more people did that, that'd be awesome. But, as always, you can listen for free. And that's just as good for me. So you can follow me on Instagram, all that stuff. Where's it going with this? Oh, yeah. Impact Custom Mouthguards. That's where I was going. I joke about it on today's episode, but you know because you listened to last week's episode. Impact Custom Mouthguards is back helping support this show. And I want to give them some love. Impact Custom Mouthguards makes, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, the finest mouthguard on the planet Earth. You go online, you select your color and style you want, the sport that you want. You can customize it however you want. You can put your name on there. You can put someone else's name on there, pictures, you name it. Whatever you want that would fit on a mouthguard, they can. Maybe you want it branded. Maybe you are a loathsome realtor and podcaster, and you want your information on it. Guess what? They can do that for you. That's impactcustommouthguards.com. Head on over there. Right before you go to checkout, enter the code Bjorn2Sell, and you'll save yourself a little bit of money on the Impact Custom Mouthguard. That code should work. If it doesn't, let me know. We're still kind of getting things up and running, but I've had mine for 6 years, and I love the damn thing. All right, Kayfabe Soaps and Sundries. That's right. Danny's Willingness making up all kinds of awesome recipes, different scents, all types of varieties, shampoo bars, shaving bars, just regular bars for washing. He's even got one that's just called soap. It's the most basic soap you can get. No scents, no additives, nothing. Just fat, lye, and whatever alchemy goes into that. And it's a beautiful, beautiful bar of soap. And in fact, he even made yours truly a custom line of soap. That's the Bjorn to Sell soap in the beautiful golden colors. Maybe catch you on the street and you'll get a bar for free from me. But if you want to purchase some and help support Danny, head over to Kayfabe Soaps and Sundries. Give him a like on Facebook and Instagram. All that stuff. He sells mostly locally, but if the order is big enough, I suspect maybe some shipping could get figured out. Or if it's going to be somewhere in Minnesota that I'm going to be, let me know and I'll bring it to you. That's a win-win-win, right? He gets to sell some soap, you get some soap, and I don't have to smell you. So that's a win-win-win. That's Kayfabe Soaps and Sundries. Keep your eyes open for the new Lutefisk scented shower gel. It's not a real thing. I think that's it for sponsors. Oh, wait. We forgot almost the most important one. My real estate stuff. I am a licensed broker here in Minnesota with Realty One Group Choice. And I'm part of the B team with me and former guest of the show, Burke Bolstead. He'll be back on sooner than later. And we are slinging houses all across the state. And for that matter, anywhere in the world, we can help you find a realtor. Reach out to me, and I can give you more information. This is a great time to buy or sell your home if it's the right time for you. That's the way I always tell it to people. Today's guest, I alluded to it last week, and then I said it again at the beginning, is the one and only Justin Helmer. one of my all-time favorite guests, and it's nice to be back in Minnesota. It didn't really hit me until we sat down to record, and Helmer brought up, because this is something I never thought was going to happen again. That never even crossed my mind, right? I guess when I folded up shop a few years ago, it was like, whatever. That was what it was. And then getting a chance to sit down with some of these people again, it's a real, real honor. We cover a lot of ground. Justin's a trivia host, a radio host, an educator. So we cover a whole wide range of things. We even talk a little bit about Denny Hecker. He comes up. But that whole discussion was prompted when we were trying to recall the name of another famous Minnesota pitchman, Dick Enrico of Second Wind Sports. Justin looked it up after the fact and said, hey, we got to make sure to put that in the intro, because he was sitting there kind of scratching his head, and I couldn't think of who it was. And then when he sent it to me, I go, oh, yeah, that guy. Duh. Why buy new when second hand will do, right? If you're from Minnesota, you remember that guy, or anywhere in the Midwest. It's actually a pretty interesting story, and it turns out Dick Enrico is still doing it. He's got the Shady Surplus Depot is what it's called now, because he just couldn't stay out of the business of pitching things and selling things. So maybe you're in Apple Valley and you want to check that out. Maybe they'll be the next sponsor of the show. Who knows? Anyhow, without wasting any more time on this introduction, let's sit back and listen to that great new theme song from the one and only Alex Mead, and then jump into this conversation with Justin Helmer. Thanks for listening. And teaching, right, was wearing both those hats. When I taught, you didn't have many consequences. Sometimes you had to yell. In coaching, you didn't have to yell because you can just make them run.
Right.
Now, with that being said, there were actually times I had a handful of students over the years, especially at the credit recovery program when I was running night school. A couple kids would come in with a little extra energy. I'll tell you the names after the podcast. You pick, oh yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I would just send them out to run a couple laps around the school before they did anything. Just go sprint twice around the block, and then we'll learn.
I feel like with the football coach thing, though, the like bulging neck and the red face is kind of part of the job expectation. Like the parents see you not sidelines screaming they don't feel like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing for your money.
Oh, well, that was, 10, 20 years ago, that would work. Times, I think, have changed a little bit. It's weird. You even see it watching pro games like that was a big discussion when the Vikings were bringing in a new coach was, we need someone of the new generation, the old school, scream and yell and make funny faces on the sidelines isn't working anymore in the league. It'll come back to that, but There is some truth.
It's always a pendulum.
It is.
I mean, you're not Bobby Knight or anything, but it's here. Have a folding chair.
Oh man, I still watch old Bobby Knight clips from time to time just for motivation, because it's I had Danny Zwelling on here a couple weeks ago, and we went deep into some philosophy, but not everybody's all good, not everybody's all bad, and like. The guy was a horse's ass, but also one of the greatest coaches of all times.
Yeah.
And there most certainly is some useful insight and stuff to glean from him. And it's just a classic example.
Yeah, and I think about somebody like Curt Schilling, great baseball player, just a wreck of a human being if you're not into his philosophy. Like, he's a very right-thinking individual, and that's, I think that may have partially kept him out of the Hall of Fame. And I think it's ridiculous if Ty Cobb is in the Hall of Fame, for God's sake. That he was just a deplorable, awful human being.
Really was.
Even by that day's standards. And, I'm not saying I want to hang out with Curt Schilling, but I'm saying based on his baseball record, he should probably be in the Hall.
Right. Everybody, welcome back to the Bjorn Johnson Internet Program. You might recognize that voice. It is Justin Helmer. You've already listened to the intro to this thing, so you know it's him. But it's been a few years since we've done one of these.
Yeah, I wasn't. A little surprised to find myself back in the secure, undisclosed location. If I'm saying the truth, because I thought when you skipped town, we might have had our last go round at least face to face. I think there's been a lot of advances with technology, and we may have gotten to that point eventually. Although you kind of stopped doing the pod there for a little bit out in the West Coast.
I did by like 20. God, when did I stop doing it? It was like 2019, I think. Yeah, because we moved to it was the spring, summerish of 2019. Life just got so busy, and I was having a hell of a time lining up guests.
Sure.
And it wasn't, like here I've got you, I've got Benji, I got Danny, I've got folks that I can call and be like, I want to hang out with you guys anytime.
Sure.
But I can also call and be like, hey, I need an episode.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? Are you bored? Do you want to come talk some shit for a little bit? And out there I didn't have that same luxury.
Sure.
And also we had a great little apartment that served our needs, but actually doing a podcast, it was like 35 40 minutes of setup, because I had to completely rearrange the room, get the chairs out, set this up. Like here I had to spend a little bit of time setting up stuff today because I had taken this apparatus out to record a couple weeks ago. Hadn't done anything, but I've got the chairs here.
Mm-hmm.
After you leave today, the microphone stands will actually slide right back into place, so I can literally sit down, plug into the computer, and hit record and go. So it's made life a lot easier.
A lot easier to get back onto it.
And I think I was in a headspace where it had lost its fun. Because the reality is I had tried to make this into something, tried to monetize it, tried to make it into my career path. And not that was wrong, because I learned a lot, but it was somewhat foolhardy.
Yeah, I think you missed the crest of that wave just a little bit. Not to say that it's not, a possibility, because I really feel like there is a dearth of good podcasting in the center of the country.
Yes.
So much of it is on the coasts, and there's a lot of good stuff on the coasts, and everybody's listening to, but I think about the podcasts that I like, and almost none of it is coming from, this part of the country with this, with this particular outlook on life, whatever that might be.
Sure. Yeah. And it was, I think you're right. I kind of missed that crest because it came up really, really quick.
Yeah.
It was, yes and no. The first podcast starts showing up in the early 2000s, but then like in 2011, it starts to gain some steam. And I got into it like in I'd have to look, but I think I recorded my first Sundine Farmcast in 2013, maybe 2012 even.
Yeah.
And did a lot. And then it became very quickly like, oh, okay, you don't have to, but it helps to have a name. It helps to have another product, i.e. comedians utilizing it to grow their audience, actors getting into it and whatever. So that was something where I was like, okay, this is really hard to break into. And it had lost its fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it was a great learning experience. I'm done. And in all honesty, it never crossed my mind to do it again. Like here and there is like, well, maybe I'll do something real estate related, and that still could be a thing, just an FYI. But I still have the equipment, but I don't know. I had helped a couple local podcasts in Spokane, one in particular, kind of get up and running. And I'm like, this is fun. This is, I went and helped them set up and traded, my time for some free drinks and got to see a good show. And that was that. All right, fine and dandy. And then I got back here and I was frankly just kind of bored when we first got back, looking for something to do. And technology had changed so much too that I went one day and I'm like, I'm just going to go look at these USB interfaces and see what they're like. Because you remember the old studio setup. I had the mixer, the lights, the everything.
Right. Yep.
And it was a lot. And then I went to Bridge of Harmony right here in St. Cloud. If you're ever looking for any musical instrument, that place is the bee's knees.
There you go.
It's like a true music shop. And, I looked at, and the USB interfaces were pretty affordable, and that was about all the thought I put into it. I'm like, well, I'll buy one of these and we'll get going again.
Yeah.
I went home that day and recorded, and I got that first episode done. I'm like, oh, that's right. This is a lot of fun, and I don't need to make money at it.
Right. If you take away that pressure, I think it probably makes a big difference. And it's just, the opportunity to hang out with people you enjoy and, like you said, talk some shit. But, I can remember hearing about this new thing that the guy from MTV, Adam Curry, was doing back in the early part of whatever I think he said 2000, however many years ago it was. And yeah, it was going to be a thing that was available and very democratized, that everybody could do it. The problem with something that everybody can do is that there's so much signal to noise.
Yeah.
Like there's so many goddamn podcasts out there for every possible niche you can think of, that if you really want to put yourself above the noise level, you have to be, your Joe Rogan or your, Joey Diaz. And even those guys are working at the periphery. I mean, I think Rogan is probably the biggest name in the game out there right now as far as podcasting, but that's a 1 in a million chance.
Right. And even with that, it's still, in a sense, like, my mom wouldn't know who Joe Rogan was. Oh. You know what I mean? It's not...
Even now, like, he's been in the news, you don't think that's...
I mean, conceivably, maybe now at this point, but, like, even before, he got, really, really big, even at the start of the whole Spotify deal where, he got $100 million, she never would have known the name, yeah. Because it is still, even at that large a scale, still somewhat of a niche market.
Absolutely. Well, and you don't need it. I mean, you have that long tail audience that you end up building, and I'm sure there are people who, like me, when okay, well, Bjorn's back in town. That's cool. It's going to be good to be able to see him again. And then one day I was looking at my phone and I got a little ping from my podcatcher. It's like, oh, there's a new North Star podcast. What the hell? Hey, check this out. It was really fun to see. So I think I'm probably not the only one who saw that and was happy to see you back.
Well, there is one thing that did shock me. There's been a lot of positive feedback, but then I can see some of the stats. I can't see a ton because I haven't gotten to the point to upgrade my package to the higher cost ones where you can see more. But
and there's the other thing that, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but the cost is very prohibitive if you're gonna be hosting lots of files.
Yeah. Well, and that was a whole to just jump off tangent a little bit. That was a whole reason too in stopping before, is it was like, all right, well, I'm spending. Hosting wasn't terrible because I didn't have a ton of downloads, but it still was, between hosting and web page and everything else, it was still about $40-50 a month. Now you times that by 12 months, and I'm like, God, I'm at that time specifically, I'm making no money at all. Right. I'm working as a laborer for $15 an hour. I'm like, we gotta make some cuts here somewhere. So anyhow, looking at the stats, I could see very quickly, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. There's still 25 people that, for whatever reason, didn't unsubscribe, just kind of forgot about it. And those are back.
Yeah.
Those are all back.
It didn't stop showing, it stopped showing up, and now it's back, and it was good to see. So
I did one of the most recent episodes, in fact, because these are, so people can see behind the curtain. We're here at the end of October, but this one will be more early November, mid-November it'll be released. But one of the previous episodes was with Burke Bolstead, and he and I were talking about one of my favorite episodes of all time, maybe my favorite of all time. We had a great conversation, and he and I were texting, and he's like, dude, people have been texting me out of nowhere about this. And there was one person in particular, and I'm sure they're listening, and I'm like, dude, he's been listening since day one. It was a fella I knew in high school. We hadn't had much contact outside of, after high school, and whatever. And I, many years back, ran into him at Menards in International Falls. And he was like, oh man, I'm a big fan of the show. And it was one of these things where I was like, oh, you never would have saw that comment. And then when Burke messaged me, he's like, yeah, so-and-so reached out to me. I'm like, dude, that's amazing, because he's been a listener since really early on and
That's
came back.
great.
So that makes me kind of happy.
Yeah. And I think, like you said about the possibility of a real estate angle on some of this stuff, interesting career path for you because you're great with people. So that is, a win there. But also, I think you can talk about it in a way that's going to make sense to people. So many times when you're trying to, and like I've only been through the process really once as a person who was actually, caring. I mean, obviously when I was little, I cared about the outcome, but I didn't have any real investment in what was going on for my parents. But like the one time I've been through it as a person who was involved in the process, it is fucking stressful. And I think just, some of the tips and tricks that you could probably put across in a real accessible way would be very, very beneficial to people, because I honestly, I would, say to Carla, and here's the first one of the new era, my wife, I would say to her, I feel like any minute, like they could call me and say, it's either going to be $2,000 more, or the deal just fell through, or congratulations, you have a house. And I don't know which one it's going to be.
Yeah. And
that just fucks your day up.
Yeah. It's a weird, scary process. And that's where, as a realtor, we try to act as it's an interesting thing. And here I'm going to really let people see behind the curtain here. I've never sold anybody a house. I've got to sell myself to you. The houses sell themselves. Right? You got to find the right agent. I'm really, truly 100% selling myself as an agent. My services is what I'm selling. Then we find you the right house, or sell your house and find the right buyers for it. But it's really, as a realtor, I view my job as a facilitator and trying to quench those flames of anxiety as much as I can.
Right.
And there is plenty to worry about and take into consideration. But my goal is always to, very, very similar to, coaching or teaching. Like, you have your lesson plan, you have your game plan. Here's where we start. Here's where we're going to end. Here's the steps we need to take. But some shit is going to happen, and we've got to adjust to it. I'm going to do everything I can to mitigate that stuff as much as possible. But man, there are some deals I've had where, just like you said, it's up until the very time it closes, you don't know what call is going to come across, even no matter how much homework you do, no matter how much you try to get it ready. And this is something that, and this isn't to disparage, I have no agents in particular in mind, but I've worked with some where it's like, man, you can, or just interactions where I'm like, you consider yourself a professional? You can't even return a text message.
Yeah.
Like, we need to have this dialogue.
And so, like, not to put anybody's business on Front Street or anything like that, but when this process that I was involved with, it ended up being one of those things where we're at the closing meeting and we found some little fillip in what was going on, and it was something in the property description that didn't get changed. So now we have to contact, their agent, our agent, the county, all of this stuff, because that little property abstract didn't get updated, and it had to be dealt with that day. And it was like, oh, okay, it's a Thursday, let's spin the wheel and see if we have a house at the end of this, because holy shit, nobody saw this coming. And it's just little things like that. It's like, ah.
Yeah.
So that's a long way of saying I really think that could be beneficial to people, even if it's just saying what you just said. Like, yeah, this is going to happen. We're going to do our best to get you through it, but just know some shit's going to go down. Yep.
The line that I always use, and I stole it from one of my trainers, the great and powerful Carrie Hayes out in Spokane. An agent, if you're in Spokane, I got a few that I would tell you to buy with or sell with. She's definitely one. She's the bee's knees. But, she instructed us, her line, she gave it to us to use is, I control the process, you control the decisions.
Right.
And that's, I try to bring it to my clients with a simple yes or no. Here's all the variables, here's all the stuff, yes or no. Mm-hmm. Move forward, move back, yes or no.
We're going to make the best decision we can based on the information we have.
Right. And then that I try to do that so it alleviates some stress, because it is the biggest financial decision most individuals will make in their life, especially now.
Right.
Man, it's crazy looking at prices and whatnot, because educating myself on the market, and I look at little old Malaco, where of course you still live. I lived before I moved, and I mean the median home price just of that area makes me go, huh?
Right.
Huh?
Yeah. And it's been weird to go from like when there was all of the subprime lending happening, where you could get a fairly decent sized mortgage with a smile and a nice, how you doing? And now to go from that to, well, there's nothing really available, to, well, it's available now, but it's all really expensive. Oh, and by the way, everything else is more expensive too. So yeah, I'm sure that you're getting, I wouldn't want to have to be doing that process at this point at all.
Yeah. And that's why it's nice to get in sooner than later.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's a long way of saying,
buy a house with Bjorn. That's the whole podcast. Thank you for coming. No.
There you go. Mark it down, folks.
So yeah, we have all types of angles and whatnot we can go with here. But one thing I definitely want to touch on is this has been in my mind for, well, a couple Christmases now. Justin hosts the Frets show on...
Yes, indeed. KVSC.
KVSC. Okay. I swear to God, I spent 6 years in Spokane calling KYRS, which is a public radio, KVSC.
Yeah.
And I get back here and I just about said KYRS.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But the Frets show, it's every Saturday.
Yep.
From
6 to 11.
Okay. And so I would listen to it out in Spokane some mornings when I was up really early.
Right.
It started at 6 or 7, and then it would be done early morning. Then, of course, I could catch Car Talk right after. Well, it's a podcast, so I could catch it whenever, but that's not the point. But explain the show really quick, and then we got to talk about the Christmas show.
Yeah, sure. It's so it's 5 hours of self-programmed. So that's one thing. I'm not playing off a playlist. It's folk and bluegrass and Celtic and acoustic and old-timey. A lot of stuff that gets kind of pushed into the general category of Americana. Fretz isn't the Americana show on KVSC. There is another one on Sundays called The Root Cellar. But I mean, you can't help it. With genre, there's always that places where they overlap. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're using genre as a prescriptive thing, I don't like that at all. Like this is not bluegrass. How dare you? There are people who say that the Newgrass Revival albums aren't bluegrass, and that's okay because they're electrified. But it's, for me, I want description, not prescription. So
sure.
I don't like genre in terms of this is and this is not. Anyway. That's me on my soapbox, but it's 5 hours on Saturday morning of all of that kind of music. And, I love it. I've been doing it since 2012 and, it's great fun.
When you originally started off kind of as a fill-in for the show, correct? Kind of subbing and then.
Yeah. So I had been a fan for a lot of years, and, I went on. I got involved in KVSC back in the late 90s before I moved away from St. Cloud when I was away for 9 years. I was in the southwest part of the state, but I was involved in KVSC, filled in a couple of times then, but also just really listened to the show, and it wasn't a style of music that I had a lot of familiarity with at the time. So came back, and the gentleman who had been hosting the show for years and years and years wasn't at the station anymore. And the person who was doing it was doing a very, very good job, but it was a fairly narrow bandwidth of what was being played. And that, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's what he knew and what he liked, and that's what it was. When I had the opportunity, I jumped back into KVSC, and it was one of the things that I wanted to do was having an eye towards when that became available again. I wanted to be on that show because it's always meant a lot to me. just as the idea of frets, because like I said, I was a fan before I was ever on it.
Right, and it's the music selection is always great, and it's something. I mean, I've seen the notes many years back and whatever. This is something you're not haphazardly throwing this together as you're going. This is something that you're thinking through throughout the week and formulating.
Yeah, I always tell people I don't like when I'm doing. I will go down into the CD, and again, it's CDs and vinyl still because I'm playing stuff off of physical media most of the time. It's a little bit more computerized than it was back before. But there's a lot of just randomly pulling things in the vault, and then I'll look at what I pulled, and that's when the thought processes come in. And if I'm not thinking ahead because of something specific, like a Christmas show, or like I did like an hour's worth of music that was just John Prine and people covering John Prine when he passed away.
Oh, I remember that.
And that was wonderful. But that took a lot of thinking ahead because, you really want to do the best you can in a situation that's that important. And, so yeah, that's the gist of getting things together.
And when the vault is, I was in studio years back. The vault is really cool. It's like an audiophile's dream because it's just the stacks of records and CDs. Mm-hmm. But now on to the Christmas show. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but I had it on in the morning, and frequently, if I'm up making bread, I'm getting my sourdough starter going again.
I saw the container on your table.
Yeah. So that should be going. So it was many a Saturday mornings were spent baking and experimenting with different breads and whatnot.
Thank you for checking in, by the way. It was always nice to hear from you.
Yeah, I did. I didn't do it all the time, but it was frequent, and it was always fun too because I could, if a song came across, it'd be, hey, play a little bit of so and so if you got a chance. And about 10-15 minutes later, boom, there'd be the song. It was great. It was nice having that little shortcut. But we were listening. It was a Christmas show, and Christmas music is what it is. You have to tolerate it at some point. Some of it's very good and whatever. And it was a Christmas theme. It wasn't just all Christmas songs. But then this song came on, and it was playing, and it actually rarely says anything, and it's playing, and it's going, and all of a sudden she just goes, "What the hell is this?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I was just thinking the same thing, and it was a song. As it were, Johnny Cash has a version of it, but this was some lady, I can't remember who it was, but it was like, oh boy, I'm going to embarrass myself singing it here, but it's when Johnny Cash sings it, it's like, I'm going to send them 2 by 2, 2 by
one
for the little baby Jesus.
Yep.
But it was, I can't remember who the female artist was that was covering it.
Mary Chapin Carpenter.
Yes, that's who it was.
Yep.
And somehow, when Johnny Cash sings it, it's really cool. It's a 3-minute song. When she sings it, it's like 11 and a half minutes long.
Listen, sometimes you need to use the restroom. I'm saying.
We were...
Back in the day, it would have been a smoke track. You put it on and go outside. But I quit smoking, so now I use those to use the restroom.
So that's the one that we still laugh about at Christmas time and whatnot, because we're both, again, she rarely says anything. She just goes, "What the hell is this?" I go, "I don't know. I'll put something else on it."
Yeah.
And so but now that's kind of become the theme of Christmas songs too, as we.
Yeah. It's called "Children Go Where I Send Thee."
Yes, that's it.
And it's that particular version is Mary Chapin Carpenter. There's a wonderful version by Odetta.
Okay.
From back in the day, but yeah, that's it's kind of like the 12 Days of Christmas.
Yes.
Where you get about a minute and a half into the song and you go, "Oh my God, what have I done?"
Yeah.
I'm going to be here a while. That's funny.
Oh man. So since we last met, also that you've jumped into another role, which is something when I heard you were doing it, I was like, yes, that's perfect. And now that we're back and settled in, we're going to come to some, but you started hosting trivia.
Yeah, I work with a company locally here in the area, Trivia Ninjas. I'm I guess you'd have to call it like a contractor. I work for Trivia Ninjas, and they send me to different the different venues. Right now, I just started. In fact, last night I started doing. Well, this is like you said, the end of October now. Last night on the 18th, I did a show for the first time back in the Clearwater area, the Clearwater Legion.
Okay.
And also tonight I will be at the. And now I feel like a comic. Come and see me at Ha Ha's on the 25th. No, my standing gigs are Tuesday nights in Clearwater and then Wednesdays at Bad Habit Brewing, which is out in St. Joseph.
Okay.
So
now with that, do you have to? Do you have to write your own questions? Or
I don't. No,
okay.
I get all of that stuff. That's part of what the Trivia Ninjas LLC or however I think that's what they are. But they provide the questions and the visual questions, and they offer me a lot of leeway in terms of, if I feel like I need to call an audible on something. The example I always use is I got back when Nike signed their contract with Colin Kaepernick, I got a question about that, and I read it out, and I read the question, and it happened to be at Clearwater, and I got booed.
Yeah, that would happen.
So yeah, and I was like, the performer streak in me runs deep. So when I start getting that kind of negative, like vocal negative feedback, I don't want that. So if I have a question that I judge in my mind is going to piss people off in the audience, I try to find something else to do, because that's just not what I want to do. People are trying to have a good night, and regardless of how I feel about it, I don't want to get booed.
Right. I mean, I suppose you could flip it on them, go completely heel, and
well, and what I
go
said
for just the booze, but yeah.
What I said at the time was, hey, that's the question. I didn't write it, but it sounds like if you don't know the answer, there might be some people over at the bar who do, because it sounds like they have an idea. And that got a laugh. So I managed to turn it around. But yeah, it's really it's ice water on the small of the back. I don't think I could ever do stand up, because like my butt puckered. That's just that one, like, boo, and like, oh fuck, no thank you. I do not like.
Well, and trivia nerds, and I say that with all due respect, because I enjoy playing trivia just as much as anybody, and you yourself are a longtime trivia nerd.
I am a trivia nerd.
But they take the shit real seriously.
Oh, absolutely.
So hosting it is kind of you kind of coming full circle on things.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, like, I would play again, there's that thing where I got involved in something because I loved it. I was playing the Trivia Ninjas shows. Back in the day, they used to be out at the restaurant that's attached to the Parkwood, the theater out in White Park.
Oh yeah.
There was a show there. I was playing that show with some friends, and it was just one of those things where I would say to the people who own the company, if you ever have need of somebody to do one of these, I think I'd be pretty good. And I would, enjoy, I think, chance to get involved. And then finally it just happened that there was an opportunity for me to become involved. And it worked out. I really enjoy it. It's performative. I get to do something that is, again, scratching that need to be. I have whatever that gene is that needs to seek the approval of strangers. So, I get to do a thing where people are having fun. They want to be there. I'm not taking the risk of being like a musician or a stand-up or something like that, where, their enjoyment is dependent upon the job that I do and how well I do my job. As long as I'm reading the questions clearly and I don't set anything on fire, it's going to go okay. And that way I get to have a little bit of that serotonin hit from having people, enjoy what I do. It's really nice.
well, absolutely. And the host is, honestly, the host makes or breaks trivia. If it's not a fun host, if it's not a good host, it doesn't matter. The questions don't matter. Like, to me, playing, like, well,
sure,
either you know the answers or you don't. That's trivia. But the host kind of makes or breaks, and the venue too. There's a place in Spokane that I had to stop going to because the acoustics were fucking terrible. We got there. I'm like, I can't hear the questions. I can't hear people talking to me. My hearing's not awesome as it was. And that's back when I was working construction also. So it was extra bad. But like the venue and then the hosts were just kind of obnoxious. And I'm like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah. It can be really rough if you're not, if you're in a spot where it's echoey or like I love a room full of people, but the other side of that is you end up in this weird space where people need to hear the questions. And so you've got this weird kind of push and pull of, you don't ever want to try to tell a room full of people who are having fun to hold it down.
Right.
Because it's kind of anathema to what you're trying to do. But by the same token, it's like, okay, a room full of people talking at this level is pretty fucking loud.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put in, if you start putting in music under that too, because I have to, so that people don't hear each other conferring, then it can get to be real. Thankfully, I've got a couple of regulars at the shows who have no compunction at all of just being like, shut up. It's nice, so.
Right. Have you, speaking of trivia and trivia nerds, are you familiar with Nathan Felder, the comic/comedic actor?
I feel like I've heard the name. Is he the guy that did the big like social experiment kind of thing on HBO?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
I've heard of it. I feel like that is. There's a part of me that looks at what I know about what he does. Like I haven't seen the show, the rehearsal, right?
The rehearsal, yes.
Yeah. So I if I understand the concept correctly, he's running people through like practice scenarios of things that they have to do in their real life.
Yeah,
is basically how it works. That is such a diabolically clever concept. I'm kind of afraid to watch the show.
It is,
honestly.
So his original program is called Nathan for You, and it was effectively a bar rescue / undercover boss, one of those shows where it's like goes into a business and helps come up with ideas of how to make it better.
He was the guy that did Dumb Starbucks.
Yes.
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Like the very first episode ever he made went into a frozen yogurt shop, and the idea to save the business was to make a poop flavored frozen yogurt because it would be so bad that people would have to buy the other flavors. I mean, just bizarre shit like that. But yes, the rehearsal, he's got one episode based solely on trivia, and he doesn't just rehearse these things once or twice. I mean, they look at every scenario possible, and it's so bizarre too because he somehow does it completely straight face the whole, like he never breaks character. And that's the part where it's like, oh no, this is diabolical. He might be diabolical because he might actually be a sociopath, a good one,
right? But at least he's using his powers for good.
It's but there's a whole trivia episode,
okay,
and it kind of exemplifies everything that's right and wrong with trivia and the people that are really into it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would any trivia fan, I would highly recommend checking out that episode.
I am going to have to check that out because of course, you see all the personalities involved in it and the people that are like, well, I mean, call it what it is. It's bowling night.
Yeah.
For people who don't like bowling.
Sure.
Any other, darts, whatever you want to call it. It's an excuse to be out and social with your friends and not have to have the pressure of what do we talk about?
Yeah.
Well, okay, we can talk about this, and then in between questions or after or before we can, check in with each other socially. But there are always people who take the game super duper seriously.
Yep.
And, after a while, if you host for a while, you can start to see them. And like the personality types kind of make themselves apparent, and like these are the folks who get annoyed when people are having too much fun during the game. It's like, what are you here for? Oh yeah, that's right. You just want to cut throats and win. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And that's okay. They're there and they're paying their money to drink their beer and whatever. So God bless them. But it is, personally, I wouldn't want to do something for recreation that made me feel that aggressive.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Right. Absolutely. It's fun to win. And, oh, by the way, when I have done trivia and those groups are there, oh, man, it is fun to beat them. It does. Absolutely. But otherwise, yeah, I don't care. I go for, the taco bar and the nice beverages.
Sure.
And the
Absolutely.
conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then, the two people who run the Trivia Ninjas company are people I know from my trivia team from the KVSC trivia.
Oh,
so
okay.
it becomes even this other level of like, oh yeah, this is, I mean, if you really want to, and back in the day before the computers were such a big part of it, the KVSC trivia, which is a little context, they do a 50-hour contest. Well, it hasn't been 50 hours for a couple of years now because of the COVID restrictions. So it's kind of been building back up towards 50 hours, and I don't think it's even going to be quite 50 hours again this year yet, but they're working back that way. But, you have to understand that they were doing this, like, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, where they figured out how to do everything remotely. And that's running a phone bank for people to call in, and all the broadcasting. People were doing it from home.
Oh.
So it was a crazy intense, and the idea that we're not going to do that, people are going to have to be able to sleep for part of this. And so they kind of cut that part short. But in February, KVSC, the college radio station, has a contest where they every hour read 9 questions over the course of the hour, and they're varying point levels. And so teams from now all over the world get involved in this thing because of the internet. But that's a different kind of thing, because it's not like, bar trivia is really about what you know or what you can remember.
Mm-hmm.
The KVSC trivia becomes, what's the most efficient and creative way to search stuff. So, like, people who really enjoy going down rabbit holes on like Wikipedia, and it's 2:00 in the morning. I was just thinking about the Frampton Comes Alive album, and then 2 hours later I'm reading about Portuguese yachting, and that just because you went from one thing to another, and that is what the KVSC trivia kind of becomes, because you're searching more than you just know stuff.
Those Wikipedia rabbit holes always end in professional wrestling for me.
Yeah.
Every time.
Nice.
No matter what I'm looking up, at some point I'll be like, oh, I haven't read about wrestling for a while. And you can really go down a rabbit hole with professional wrestling on run.
So as a tangent, here's an interesting rabbit hole I went down, and you'll probably have some insight on this. Recently, I was looking, I don't know why it occurred to me, but I went looking for the $1 Million Man.
Oh,
because
sure.
I was thinking about when, the last time I was into wrestling was that kind of era.
Yeah.
Before WWF became WWE, and before it was the whole thing with the World Wildlife Federation. So your Ted DiBiase, your Jake the Snake, all these guys. So I went looking for information on Ted DiBiase and found out that he either is not well or he's passed away. But he kind of became a sort of a preacher in his older age. And so this rabbit hole I went down was finding a lot of these guys who kind of went from being a professional wrestler to a minister of some kind. And it seems to happen a fair amount.
Yeah. Yeah, it does, because this is things coming full circle. The origins of professional wrestling really go back to the days in the deep south of the tent preachers. Danny Swilling and I talked about this.
Okay.
And the carnival barkers. I mean, that's where the term kayfabe comes from, as Danny educated us on. But the notion of of separating a fool from their dollar.
Sure.
I mean, that's a carnival.
Yep.
That's a evangelical church set up in a tent or anywhere. It doesn't. I don't want to offend. It doesn't even have to just be evangelical. It can be any church.
Right.
Is trying to separate a fool from their dollar. But anyhow, I digress. So the origins are there. Like, that's where the origins are. But also, if you think of it, if you really watch the Southern preachers, it's about the crowd interaction. It's about getting the involvement. It's about getting a reaction. of some type, good or bad. So the performance is there.
Well, and any performer, any religious person who's, you need a good heel.
Yeah.
For your belief system, certainly.
Yes, absolutely. And so that performance aspect's there. And then the other part of it is too, like, it's a tough, hard business. I know I only know stories of it and talking to people that have done it and seeing the behind the scenes stuff. I have no firsthand experience, obviously, with this, but like, you're physically beating yourself up a lot. You're also only working, even at the lower levels. I mean, maybe they're working full-time jobs. More than likely they are. But when they get to the professional level and are moving around, it's similar to any other entertainer. You're only working an hour a day.
Right.
That leaves you 23 other hours of the day to do stuff.
Stare at the wall.
Now, when you give a young man that much leeway, boy, it's gonna typically not end well.
Sure.
Especially when they're younger, it's gonna end with drugs, alcohol, and they're gonna get really good at wrestling. They're gonna get really good at drugs and alcohol, and then something's got to change. And where does that pendulum swing back to?
Yeah, replacing one thing with another. Often.
Yeah. So that's at least my theory and my take on it.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And the showmanship aspect of it,
It was just fascinating because it was like, here's Ted DiBiase, and then there's like 5 other guys who went from pro wrestling to, hey, let me talk to you about my good friend Jesus.
Right.
And that's, great. If that makes you a better person, that's not a problem at all. But I thought it was a really interesting, and that makes sense now that you've put that context on it. So thank you for that.
How funny is it though that the $1 Million Man was a terrible, he's a great heel,
yeah,
a terrible thing, and it was he's a millionaire. That was his shtick.
Yeah,
that he's a millionaire.
Yeah, and then so. The other thing that happened right around that time is for a brief little minute, I had a trial of the Peacock streaming service.
Oh, sure.
And they have all the WWE stuff.
Yeah.
And the old WWEs, like the WrestleManias that my friends and I used to put in, like we would pool money for and have somebody's parents pay the pay-per-view, the exorbitant at the time pay-per-view, so we could watch, or we would rent on VHS. And so I'm watching all of those, and it's amazing to me how much of the old vaudevillian theater is in there, but then how much of the thing that made me think about it was Ted DiBiase's valet, which is, I don't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he's just this giant African-American man.
Oh, yeah.
In like a Chippendales with just like the things on his wrist and the bow tie. But
Vincent.
Okay. The horror, I guess horrible in context, but just like the picture of, this guy following this other dude around, and just the undertone of that, and just realizing like what that must have been like for people back in the day to know, for like to be a person like Junkyard Dog, and to know like I'm doing this job, but these people who are loving me could easily not love me if they ran across me out in the real world. Yeah. And that's got to be a weird like place to live too. Just in terms of like the social aspect of race politics back in the day.
Well, and there was, God, is it Vincent? Is that the name I'm thinking? I'm drawing a blank right now. I should know this off the top of my head. But there was, there is that aspect of wrestling where it was, all right, well, this is the stereotype. This is we're going to play into it.
Sure.
We're going to separate that fool from his dollar this way.
Exactly.
Ted DiBiase.
Or who was the guy that was supposed to be Samoan?
There was a number of them.
That was another one where it was like, you watch it now and it's just like, oh my goodness. And I think,
Virgil, that's the word.
Virgil, yeah. You never want to talk about like boy things, you wouldn't, I don't know that we'd want to do that kind of thing over again. But I think you definitely can tell that even as an entertainment product, WWE is like, well, I don't know what we're going to do now because, you know, you can't make a heel based on their ethnicity anymore, which I think is good. I think is as it should be, because that kind of thing just isn't healthy. But your Iron Sheik would never fly these days, you know, and I think that's probably for the best. But you really need somebody. It's almost like a thing where you need like a wrestler who's a heel who's just like Johnny the pedophile, because that's the only person left that it's really safe to like vocally and outwardly hate.
Yeah, the art of the heel. I mean, that's really, the heels are the most important guys. It's super easy to be a babyface, to get the cheers, to actually be the bad guy,
and to be good at it, like Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
I think one of the best that ever did the job.
And the crazy part is when you talk to the boys in the back, the heels are usually in real life the nicest, most giving care, like typically the nicest people. The baby faces are usually kind of worthless and assholes. Not always, but that's kind of how it plays out.
It averages out.
It averages out that way. Well, to your point, just so listeners, because I'm sure there's some people, at least a couple listeners, screaming like you called Vincent Virgil. Also, we do have to acknowledge that Virgil, by the way, is one of the like greatest pro wrestlers of all time that never held a championship. And it kind of was because he was that valet position. Now, he played that role amazingly. He was a fantastic, fantastic talent. But that's just kind of the role he fell into, and that's how he made his money. So that was good. I don't know what the dog's losing her mind over. It's always something. But yeah, I talked about this, I think, with Danny, because I've gotten back into following more local wrestling.
Okay.
Specifically, honestly, if they ever, they're doing a show in Anoka this week, I might go to. But if the opportunity presents itself, you should come with us to a show, because it's First Wrestling. So it's a promotion run by Eric Cannon. He's a pretty big name. It's independent, and they started at the First Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they started doing shows there, and they're like, they pride themselves on being a all-inclusive wrestling brand.
Right.
So like they have the current VFW champion is I'm going to get this wrong, but it's a trans individual. I don't know. I'm going to mess, but like that's their character. That's their thing.
Sure.
That's what they're open to. They're, LBGTQ, the whole thing, friendly. That's like part of their shtick. And it's not even a shtick. It's just, it's who they are. They're like, oh no, we can make this a safe space. This is wrestling for everybody.
Yeah.
And they do local shows. We went to one at, Bauhaus Brewing. We went to another one at the Mall of America. This one's going to be at the VFW in Anoka coming up. Great local promotion, and it's fun to watch.
That's cool.
So we babbled a lot about wrestling on this, but something that I realized a few years ago, because Ashley is really big into drag and RuPaul's Drag Race and going to drag shows and whatnot. That is evidently a very big thing right now. And as she was talking about it, and I've watched very little, because it doesn't interest me. I don't care one way or another. I've been to one or two drag shows with her. I'm like, oh, I see the appeal. And when we went to the first drag show, that's where it clicked. I'm like, oh, this is the same as professional wrestling. This is people putting on the costumes, playing a character, getting a crowd interaction. There's going to be some drama created of some type. They do that, this is it, the similarities are like, it's so much. It's so much. So then when we went to this first show at Bauhaus, and they've got the trans individual, they've got a couple other things. I'm like, oh no, it really truly
the storylines are all there.
Yeah, it's all here. It's really, really fascinating.
Yeah, I guess it's all just one big show business.
It is. It's a performance art, and it's very it's fun. And that is how a Wikipedia rabbit hole can lead you down that.
We've come full circle.
Here was my most recent Wikipedia rabbit hole, was when we moved here. This was just yesterday. I went down this. When we were talking about moving here, I had texted Carla and I'm like, hey, we're coming back. We found a place to live. And she's like, oh, where are you living? Now, I spent a number of years in St. Cloud here. Like I 6 years in college and then was in Malacca forever, but not in St. Cloud town. But I don't know. I can tell you where stuff is,
Sure.
but I don't know neighborhoods or parts of town or whatever. And honestly, where we're at right now, I don't know that I had ever driven by this specific area because campus is, on kind of the south of Division and whatnot. That's where most of my time was spent.
Yeah.
And I sent her the address. She goes, oh, Pantown. I guess I didn't even know.
Okay.
Didn't even know what Pantown was.
If you say so.
Are you familiar with Pantown?
Yeah, Pandolfo, the car.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that out yesterday, but then I really went down the rabbit hole with him. It's fascinating. So yeah, this dude decided to start a car manufacturing service here, like in the late 19-teens, I believe.
Right.
And they made about 704. I think 740 was the number. I think there's only like 7 still in existence.
Super high end for the time.
Yes.
I mean, like just
really slick,
crazy. Yeah.
really slick, good looking cars. And the idea was he wanted to be here because of the proximity to the Iron Range for materials. And then also the shipping ports in Duluth wasn't too far away, so you could get them on ships and whatnot. And also labor issues. St. Cloud was not a union town at the time, so they're like, oh, we can make this work. And eventually the business ends up going they end up going broke, or he gets himself in legal trouble because he's basically defrauding investors.
I knew there was something about that. Yeah.
So they brought him to trial twice for mail fraud because he was mailing out stuff to get investors, and that's how they got him, was on mail fraud charges. Got free of the first set. The second set didn't do so well. But here's where it gets really fascinating. The judge who was in charge of that also went on to become the commissioner of baseball after he was the prosecuting lawyer in the whole Black Sox scandal.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, but it all ties right back to here. He was the hammer. He brought the hammer down on the motor company, and then basically the whole Black Sox scandal. He's like, okay, I need to handle this, and it was kind of a Palpatine-esque move. He's like, okay, if I'm going to handle this situation, you've got to give me complete control. And that's how he became the baseball commissioner after he was the basically federal prosecutor of that thing. He's like, okay, we put these people in jail. Now I can clean up this league if you give me all the power. And I mean, he wasn't, as far as I could tell from the little bit that I read, it wasn't like this terrible person or whatever. He's just kind of a hard ass.
Yeah, he was just doing his jobs. Mountain Landis, is that the name? Kennesaw Mountain Landis?
Yes, isn't that quite the name?
Yeah, that's a serious name. Yeah, and so Pantown, to go back to the local thing here, is the neighborhood that the workers were set up in. That was the idea, was going to be the factory company town.
Right.
So in this general area.
And then eventually it just became part of the city. It
Right.
was like its own separate little, which it is funny to me to think about because this is like old St. Cloud here, right?
Yeah.
This is like an older section of town, but no, at one point it certainly was just woods and shit. You kind of forget about that.
Absolutely. And not as long ago as it feels like sometimes.
No, I remember not too long ago talking to my friend's dad. Both his parents grew up here in St. Cloud, and he's like, oh yeah, I mean, this was back in the 60s and 70s, but he's like, yeah, where the mall is, that's where we hunted. He's like,
absolutely.
He's like, we would go out there and grouse hunt like after school and stuff because it was just all wilderness.
Yeah. It's crazy when you've been around someplace long enough to go, oh yeah, that used to be a field. This is where it used to stop. And, haven't been, so like my mom sold the house that I grew up in a few years back now and moved into Waite Park.
Oh, okay.
On the other side of town. And hadn't been out the direction that I used to I used to drive Highway 10 between St. Cloud and Clear Lake basically every day when I started driving, because I would come into town. This is super local. If you're listening from elsewhere in the country, I apologize because you are bored as shit, and I really am sorry. But I used to come in this half an hour drive, and I would see it every day on my way to school. Anyway, last night on my way to Clearwater, I happened to be coming from St. Cloud, hadn't driven this in a while. And it's that same kind of thing where it's like, oh, things have been going on here too. It's not, like, it's almost like that solipsistic idea where, oh, it happened when I wasn't paying attention. You mean the world still continues even when I'm not involved in it? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and especially going through that, because St. Cloud, the only way it can really expand is west. I mean, it can go north and south, but really west, things just kind of keep pushing that way.
Yeah.
When I started college here, it was like St. Cloud, a couple Denny Hecker places, and then Waite Park. That was it. Now there's like Pizza Ranch and shit. Like,
and Denny's in jail.
And Denny's in jail. How is there not a podcast about that guy? Now there's an idea.
Oh, it's coming.
What in the heck ever happened to Denny Hecker?
There's there's got to be some, and somebody's probably come up with it because it's like the rule about, if you can imagine it, there's pornography based on it. But somewhere in the world, someone is inventing that podcast right now as we speak.
My mind instantly went to Denny Hecker pornography. God, that would be terrible. That would cure the internet of porn right there.
I think I just burnt my brain out. There you go.
Oh,
the tags on this episode are going to be like, all of your meta stuff is going to be really weird. Like Denny Hecker, pornography, wrestling, kayfabe, folk music, Jesus.
When that whole scandal broke, I just remember I don't know that anybody was shocked at all. Like,
no.
If you saw the commercials, if you saw the expansion of everything, it was like, well, obviously something hinky is going on here, because there went from like being, one Denny Hecker Dodge to now he represents every automobile brand in the world.
Yeah. Everybody, it's like there was a lot of going, okay, well, there's definitely something that's not going to hold up forever there. Like, and you just, that feeling of the boom and bust of it, like, okay, all right, we'll wait and see how that turns out. But then there was a while there where he was, I think he's the same guy that did the Lone Ranger, right? Like the character where he would put on the cowboy outfit and the chaps, and he was the Lone Ranger. Am I misremembering? Or
that
is that
sounds
else?
like something he could have done.
Well, the reason I ask is because there's a place out in Foley where they have one of the standees. Like, they used to have these giant standees that would stand, big fuck off sign of him in this outfit, or I think it's him. Would just stand in the car lot like something out of The Goods. I love that movie. And there's still one out in Foley, so every so often I drive by it and they're like, oh, hey, there he is.
I'm gonna have to check that out and see. That is. That's right up there. Denny Hecker's right up there with Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's a name I have not heard in quite some time.
Who was the guy who used to have the business reselling used sports equipment?
Oh, the
short little guy, like bigger in the face, dark curly hair.
Yeah. But it was played again sports, but it was the guy.
Yeah. What was the guy's name?
I don't know. I remember that now. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look this up.
Oh, those old local commercials.
Yeah, and there again, you just knew that those guys were real characters.
Yes.
Let's see here. I feel like it was.
They're very effective at separating a fool from their dollar.
Well, there you go. There again. It's all the show. It's all the show. I feel like it was Dick something. And maybe that's just a general sales name, but I feel like it was.
He did seem kind of like like a dick, I guess.
Oh, or I'm misremembering entirely. Anyway, yeah, I've derailed us entirely. So.
But we're, again, coming back to not everybody's all good or all bad. Denny Hecker did really introduce Hyundai to Minnesota. If you remember, he was one of the first Hyundai dealerships that I remember.
What is that is fascinating. I mean, just A, the idea that you know that, and then B, yeah, okay, well, I'm coming around on Denny Hecker.
I'm telling you, this is going to be the new podcast.
You were looking for your own version of the okay. You're going to have to put an edit point in here, although, no, why bother? But Serial, that's the name I was trying to come up with. Looking for your own Serial. It's going to be Denny Hecker's story.
One of my all-time favorite podcasts was one that came out about 6 years ago, and it was Whatever Happened to Richard Simmons.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
It was fantastic.
Wasn't there kind of a thing, though, where people were saying, like, leave the poor man alone? Like the people who were involved in the podcast kind of got into trouble for it?
Well, that's it. That's kind of how it ended. Was they're like, hey, Richard's just fine. He doesn't want to be, he's done. He's done with this. And it was what the guy doing the podcast was like, hey, Richard and I thought we're somewhat close, and he had a profound impact on mine and millions of people's lives, and we're all wondering where he is and what happened and that he's okay. And they're like, yeah, no, he's fine. Just Richard wants to just fade off.
Back off. He's done now.
Now, with that being said, I respect his decision, but I do believe that the world would be a better place if Richard Simmons was still a little bit more active, just because it was. And he's the man.
Did you see on Netflix the show that was making it kind of had fun with the whole true crime format, American Vandal?
No, I know what you're talking about, but I didn't watch it.
I love this. So the second season fell off a lot, but the first season is absolutely brilliant satire. It's set up as one of these true crime documentaries, and the whole question is who, like at a high school, who was drawing dicks on all of the faculty cars. And that's the big mystery that they're trying to solve. Absolutely brilliant.
I might have to check that out now.
Yeah.
I guess I never realized that it was kind of a mockumentary type thing, which are some of my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of, new programs and shows that are out, have you been watching House of Dragons?
I have not. I was just talking to. Actually, I was. Another thing with KVSC, from time to time, I fill in with their movie review show that runs on Thursdays. It's actually just a 10-minute little between show things, but we were talking about streaming stuff last week, and the thing I said about House of the Dragon was I loved Game of Thrones and I loved the books. And the wheels came off that last couple seasons so profoundly and so completely that I'm not 100% sure if I'm ready to be heard again.
Sure.
But I've heard good things, so I'll get there eventually. I haven't even I'm behind on Star Wars, of all things, if you can imagine that. Like, I haven't seen Andor yet.
Oh, Andor is fun.
I've heard it's really, really good. But I haven't got there. It's too many things to watch.
There is just so much to watch. I mean, we're actually not all the way caught up on Andor for two reasons. One, our October was end of September and October.
You've been all over the place.
Was very, very busy. But two, even after watching the first episode, I was like, oh no, we're gonna savor these because I could rip through this whole season really quick and really easy. It's really solid, and it's so much fun to see what Disney has done with Star Wars. It's because when they bought them, the question was, are they going to ruin this, or are they going to make it better? And I feel overall they've made it better. They opened up that universe. It was, I enjoy the new trilogies just as much as the prequels, which isn't saying a lot, but the shows are great. Did you watch Obi-Wan?
Yes.
So to me, like, I watched Obi-Wan, it got done, and I'm like, oh, this is the best Star Wars thing since Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of, like, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have done, and I mean, and Kathleen Kennedy too. I know she takes a lot of shit, but I think part of that is just because she's a woman doing the job. But she takes a lot of shit from some pretty poisonous Star Wars fans. God knows that there's a few of those out there. But those three have really done a good job of taking all of the stuff that you and I used to lay in our bed at night and wonder about, and make stories out of that stuff. So what happened, between this and this, and one of my favorite things about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm going to spoil just a minor plot point, but it's been out for a little while.
Yeah, it's been out long enough. You should have watched.
So if you don't want to know this little minor plot point in Obi-Wan that I thought was pretty cool, skip ahead like 15, 20 seconds. One of my favorite things about that whole series was finding out where that little model that Luke is fucking around with at the beginning of Star Wars came from. Mm-hmm. It was a gift from, and like, oh my God. And I said, when it came up, I was like, yeah, Carla, look. And she didn't understand what I was freaking out about, but it's little moments like that. Like, oh, there's all kinds of stuff. And it's moved away from the Skywalker family, and that's good because it, that can only be a good thing. I do think they missed a little bit with, and I agree with the actor who plays him. I think that making Boba Fett the centerpiece of a show didn't work out like they were hoping, maybe entirely, because that character needs to be almost non-communicative to be super effective.
Sure.
One or two and Tamora Morrison said, I am talking way too much. Give my lines to the other actors because I don't want to be talking this. Boba Fett does not talk this. So I had that problem with that particular show. I enjoyed it. I loved seeing the Rancor in that particular. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like never, seeing one of those delivered. Like, how does that process work? So yeah, I'm looking forward to the continuing kind of blowing out the edges of this. And I really do. This is going to be a little bit controversial, I'm sure. The deep Star Wars nerds might come for me a little bit, but I am hoping that eventually that Rian Johnson does get to make his, trilogy of movies that he was supposed to make back in the day. Like when he did, I really like The Last Jedi. And I know that there are people who would probably, push me out of a moving car for saying that, but I thought it did some really interesting stuff.
There was certainly high points to it. The flaw with the new trilogy is the fact that he was in the middle, and it's not a knock on that movie, but they should have really just committed Abrams to the whole thing. How much money do you want, JJ?
Yeah.
Tell us the number. We'll write the fucking check. You make these 3 movies because
that continuity.
You need that continuity.
Well, and I think they had that reaction to the difference in the directors. So, you got J.J. Abrams, who's very much doing very high quality fan service.
Yep.
But fan service nonetheless.
Yep.
And then you've got Rian Johnson, who really wants to do something different, for better or worse. And people kind of went, okay. And I think it kind of caused that pendulum to go so far back to the end. Like, I didn't hate The Rise of Skywalker, and I enjoyed it more than I disliked it, but I definitely think it was overall a missed opportunity.
Oh, it reeked of, okay, let's get this done.
Yeah.
To me, like that was, and I enjoyed it. Yes, absolutely. But it was very much like all right, we're in this weird hole. Let's get out. And absolutely, I think Ryan should be given a shot because, Rebel 1's fucking amazing. Yeah. Oh man, is that a Rogue One, not Rebel One? Rogue One. Anywho, yeah. So loving that. So I assume you haven't seen the new Lord of the Rings series either.
Nope, I haven't.
That is, I would. I move that towards the top of your queue.
Okay,
it's entertaining. It's interesting because that show. One, of course, it garnered all types of controversy right away because there's black elves and shit, and it's like, oh, just stop it.
For fuck's sake, people.
You're exhausting me. But it, there are parts that drag out a little bit, but then like it is something where the last 2 episodes are like, oh, okay. All right, now we're really in for this. And really the last 15 minutes of the last episode, you're like, yes.
Okay.
Yes, now we're cooking with gas here. Overall, I mean, we enjoyed the shit out. We watched it every Friday evening because it came out Thursday, so we'd prioritize watching it, and I can't get enough of it.
There again, the Tolkien nerds came for that show, and they're like, it's not canon. Well, of course it's not canon. Tolkien wrote maybe 3-4 books, and then the rest of it was just notes.
Just notes
that he had compiled by people after he died.
Uh-huh.
And that's, so yeah, it's not canon. If you want to get real deep nerdy about it, neither is the Silmarillion. So, do with that what you're going to do.
No. Well, when the big, if you really want to upset, really, really want to upset Lord of the Ring nerds who did get wound up with that, just remind them that Dumbledore is way more powerful than Gandalf. Then they get pissed.
I don't know how. Wow. Ugh. I don't know how I feel about that.
It's an interesting debate. I went down a Reddit rabbit hole and looked at quite a bit of stuff, and I'm like, huh.
So
might actually be true.
Without disappearing up my own ass here, although I'm on a podcast, so what else am I here to do? Here's my question. Gandalf is, like, if I understand the situation correctly, Gandalf is like 2 steps down from a god.
Yeah.
Dumbledore has a lot of power, but ultimately he's still a human.
And that is the debate. And the fact that Gandalf has been around for thousands of years and has seen so much, It's like, well, surely he must be more powerful. But aside from battling the Balrog, we never actually really see that. If he was so powerful, why didn't he just, defeat all these armies single-handedly and whatnot? Well, whereas we do see Dumbledore flex his powers a lot, his actual magical powers.
Though you're not, but that, okay, so that becomes a question of not who's more powerful, but who flexes harder.
Kind of.
Okay.
That's kind of the debate. And at the end of the day, I don't care either way because I love them both, but it's just a fun way to piss off the nerds.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
Get really into it.
Absolutely. Well,
because then the other part of this all is, is Palpatine more powerful than both of them? Which then Vader's more powerful than him. So does that make Vader the most powerful of all?
Okay. So Vader, absent the injuries, I think was absolutely the most powerful, period. End of sentence. But you tack on, losing 2/3 of his body in a work-related accident, and I think you have to make some adjustments. If he was, that was one of the nice things about Obi-Wan too, was seeing, like you kind of did at the end of Rogue One. Although I want to back up a little bit because again, I think we're going to get emails if I don't mention Rogue One, not Rian Johnson. That's a different director.
Oh, that's right.
Although you would expect it because,
yes.
But anyway, at the end of Rogue One, seeing a very, relatively speaking, vital and powerful Vader moving like you would expect, and not like David Prowse at the end of Star Wars, which was, fighting with a 70-year-old Alec Guinness at the time. So they're both kind of moving like they're, very stiff and wooden. Seeing Vader fight in Obi-Wan Kenobi was really cool because that's, again, exactly how you imagined it.
Right. And did you read any of the comics? The Darth Vader comics?
Not the newest ones. Not since they became, like, when they shut off the old stuff and decanonized all of the old comics. I haven't really picked up any of the new stuff. So I know that there's a new Vader series.
So I've read a number, and I don't know the sequence of all of them. But the Last Jedi, what am I thinking of? Knives Out. That was a good one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Why was I thinking Rogue One? There was something...
No, Rian Johnson, one of his first, either his first or one of his first movies, a movie called Brick, really interesting because he took the hardcore detective stories and kind of ported that whole genre into a high school movie.
Okay.
And it's fun. It's very stylized. Like Carla couldn't finish it because she doesn't really love hard-boiled detective stories.
Sure.
But I went back and watched it later, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is very much my style. I liked it a lot. So he's been doing interesting things all the way down the line. And, you know, the Knives Out series, well, it's going to be a series when the next one comes out. Been a lot of fun. Did you see?
Oh,
that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
We had the, well, I will finish this thought, then go into that one.
Yeah.
The Vader comics really show what a motherfucker he is. And it was something where I got like the Amazon Unlimited equivalent of comic book things. You know, so I read a shit ton of Star Wars comic books a couple years ago. And it really, the Dark Lord of the Sith was one. And this was, it's Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. It was multiple volume series. Then there's another one, but they really showcase like Vader, his power, the fact that he had like he hated the Emperor, hated him.
Sure.
Like they weren't buddy. This wasn't a good working relationship.
Yeah.
This was a, for lack of better terms, this is a slave and master relationship, and he had very little say in it. But I mean, he did badass things like, you know, have Grand Moff Tarkin hunt him. Like, you know, I'm going to disappear. You send your best people and you try to find me.
Okay.
You know, I need the challenge.
Wow.
Yeah. Like shit like that, like crazy. And just, you know, just mowed down effectively commandos and whatnot.
Speaking of Tarkin, I saw an interesting, and I'm going to hijack your thought again. I saw an interesting little thought experiment saying that if Tarkin had survived the Death Star, the Empire would have gotten wiped out in the long run because he was a better military strategist than anybody the rebellion had at the time. Like if Tarkin hadn't been killed in that first Death Star, he might have been able to wipe out the rebellion ultimately.
Yeah. He was great. And that's why he actually was, I mean, he effectively held rank over Darth Vader. And that was a big point of contention, was like, Vader didn't really command any soldiers. If he wanted to grab a group of guys and say, hey, you're coming with me, they had no say. But
right.
he wasn't really in charge of military operations. He was in charge of doing Sith shit. Like that was kind of it. And Tarkin was the like the patent, for lack of better words. Like,
right.
All right, you run this military front and make it work. And he was really, really good at it.
Space Rommel.
Yeah. The old Space Fox.
The video game, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I probably have it in the Atari. I do actually have Star Fox.
I love this, and that's what I was thinking about. I love this Disneyland train set. I saw you had that set up and you were doing some stuff on social media with it, and it still works. That's great. How old is that set?
It's from like 86 or so. So I've got a handful of vintage toys and shit at my mom's house that has been for years. They need to get out of there. I don't know why. They're in the garage attic where she has never been. And now that she's had a hip replacement and a knee replacement,
she's
never
up there.
could get up there. Or maybe if she did, she wouldn't come down. But the stuff has got to go. Oh, my God. So anyhow, when I had to make a quick trip up north to look at some houses, and I had room in the pickup, so I loaded it up with some bins of shit. One of it was that train set. And it was mine as a kid. I don't really remember playing with it, but in hindsight, I do remember like it never really working.
Okay.
So I actually took the train apart and did some work to get it working. So it's available now on eBay for 150 bucks, 100 somewhere in there. Actually, no, it might be 75 for that. The really interesting thing is, hang on one second here.
Oh, he's up and moving.
Barely.
Oh. Okay, watch out. And, I hear.
So, this was this box that was inside this box. This is all the components for it because, you know, back in the day you saved boxes and reused them, but it's an old Bauer skate box that I can tell you quite definitively that it's from 1979/80. And here's why. I don't follow hockey a lot, but first of all, there's only like 21 teams on there or something.
I see the Oilers.
So there's the Oilers, and then down here is the Colorado Rockies.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you had told me about the Colorado's Rockies hockey team, I would have been like, no, you're wrong. They're a baseball team.
What is right above that next to the...
That is the Quebec Nordiques.
Okay. Wow.
So the Rockies in 1980, they played their last, or no, pardon me. They came into the league in 1979 or 80. And over here is the Atlanta Flames, who became the Calgary Flames. They left after the 1979 season to go to Calgary. So this can only be from 79/80 because that's the only 2 years those teams were together.
I don't follow hockey, but this is fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And the Quebec Nordiques, which are right above the Colorado Rockies, went down to Colorado and became the Avalanche.
Oh.
And the Hartford Whalers, that, of course, is a team.
Sure.
So this was, when I pulled this box out, I wasn't even thinking about it. And then I was looking, I'm like, at first I laughed at, how few logos there were. And then I'm like, wait, what teams are what here? Of course, you got the North Stars on there.
Yeah.
And these skates, they were not mine. I don't know if they were my dad's, maybe my brother's, or maybe the boxes came from somewhere. It's a pair of Bauer. It doesn't say the model or whatever, but there actually still is a price tag on there for $69.99. $69.95 was the price. So adjusted for inflation, that's a lot.
Yeah. My God.
So yeah,
that's fun.
So yeah, the Disneyland train set, it's pretty interesting because it goes around and then it moves the different rides and whatnot. But I don't ever remember it working as a kid. I don't remember playing with it a lot because it would have been, if it's from 1986, I would have been 3 to 5.
So the price, is that a price tag on the side of it, or is that an inventory
No, I think
tag?
that's an inventory tag.
Okay, all right. Because I know it was back in the day, but $5.64 seems like it was $5.64. That seems like a little bit, even for then.
Yeah, I'm curious really where it came from. Initially, I thought it was maybe something my parents had got on their honeymoon when they were out in Disneyland, maybe for my brother or something like that.
Okay.
But then when I was doing some research, it's from 86, which puts that well out of that time frame because they were married. And here's why I had kind of confirmed that. I'm like, well, they were actually married in 79, which is when that skate box is from. But those things don't mesh. And then, of course, back there you can kind of see the joysticks. I got the Atari. That's up for sale right now with 24 games. I actually fired that up, and I'll be damned if it didn't work.
Is that the first generation?
It's a 2600.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with a handful of different games. That thing was the reason I could never have a Nintendo. Well, you have the Atari. The Atari is like 10 years old. Fuck you. Get me a Nintendo.
All I'm doing is throwing dots at other dots. It doesn't matter the game. That's ultimately all I'm doing.
The closest thing I had to Mario was Donkey Kong on there that, of course, featured Mario.
I loved the game, but it always frustrated the hell out of me because the flying mechanic pissed me off. Joust. Did you ever have Joust for this?
No, but
this set?
oh,
God. Because you had to keep hitting the button to keep the thing flying.
Right.
And it was just, anyway, lots of throwing the controller down in disgust and be like, I can't do it anymore.
I did fire up pole position, and I will say it's, it still holds its own. It was actually pretty damn fun.
Nice. You didn't happen to run across a copy of the E.T. game in there, did you?
No, I wish. I did get
then you could.
I did get super excited because I was like, well, let's price out some of these games and see if there is anything worth.
Yeah.
A substantial amount. Everything in there is worth a little bit, anywhere from $10 to $20. And when I was looking through a list, I'm like, oh my God, there's a game called Air Raid that, like, not in the box. If it's in the box, it sells for like $25,000.
What?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. If it's out of the box, it sells for like $8,500. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I think I own Air Raid. And I start looking because I'm like, I had set everything out and took pictures and whatnot. I'm like, I swear to God, I saw Air Raid. I grabbed it. I'm like, holy shit, here it is. No, I have Air Raiders.
Oh.
A little bit different than Air Raid.
Okay.
And that one's only worth like $10. But yeah, the old Atari, it fired up. It was interesting because with, new digital TVs, there's still the coaxial hookup. but it wants to sit there and search for channels. So I had to figure out how to like circumvent that and whatever. And then it actually worked. And I bet I haven't had that fired up for 20 years.
Oh man.
So I was shocked. So that's for sale too. And I got all types of fun toys and shit that's going to get sold here eventually. I have all my original Masters of the Universe toys. A bunch of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves toys still in the boxes.
You took better care of your shit than I did. All of my good stuff ended up buried in the sandbox or frozen. When Empire Strikes Back came out, I got real attached to the idea of freezing my action figures in water in bowls in the freezer. So that happened a lot, but I lost a lot in the sandbox too.
Yeah, I didn't have much of a choice. Like we had a small house, so it was kind of imperative to keep the boxes for toys for two reasons. One, if I was into He-Man that week, like the He-Man toys that come in from the shed and G.I. Joe would go out.
Okay.
We kind of had to rotate.
So by virtue of that, you ended up having to keep the packaging.
In a lot of cases. Most of the G.I. Joe boxes, that all got trashed, which is a bummer because that's, strange enough, those things actually have some of the most value. But the actual conditions of the toys, yeah, it's pretty damn good. Unfortunately, I think I missed the window. I was really scheming in 2020 to figure out how to get that out to Spokane so I could send it, but it just wasn't cost effective, to sell. It wasn't cost effective to get it out there because that's when that used market in 2020, 21 really peaked.
Right.
But it's a shit that I gotta sell and get rid of because I don't need it or care about it anymore. And if there's value to somebody in it, awesome. Let's get rid of
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's why the Disneyland train set is here and was on social media. I was pretty happy when I got it working. It was pretty advanced wiring. There was 2 different wires in there that I had to disconnect and resolder. So it was
Oofta. You avoided the warranty on that thing when you cracked it open.
Now, the Atari still has the warranty card in there.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it's only a 90-day warranty, so I think it's
you may have extended past
maybe
it.
expired. And I did find some mail sweepstakes in there that I missed out on $100,000 because it needed to be claimed by January 29th of 1999.
Who was giving out $100,000 back? That's adjusted for inflation. That's a lot of money.
It had to be Denny Hecker.
There you go.
Oh man. So, well, shit, it's been about an hour and a half. We've covered a lot of ground and gone through a lot of rabbit holes. Is there anything else that's
this feels good. This is a good place to let it go for this episode. I assume, I haven't worn out my welcome.
Oh, heavens no.
I'll be back at some point.
Absolutely. This is, you're right in like I said, you're in the same category as Benji and Danny's Welling. Take that as a compliment or not.
Yeah.
Especially the Benji part. But, we're, any guest is welcome anytime. But you guys are the fun ones to always sit down with and just go down these rabbit holes. So tell people one more time, if they're local listeners, where the trivia is and the times.
So, the radio show's Frets Folk and Bluegrass program on Saturday mornings from 6 to 11 Central Standard Time. If you want to check it out in the world, you can stream it at kvsc.org. The trivia gigs are Tuesday at the Clearwater American Legion in lovely Clearwater, Minnesota, and on Wednesday nights at the Bad Habit Brewing Company in St. Joseph. All of that information is available at trivianinjas.com.
Is it Bad Habit because that's where the nunnery is?
I think that might be part of it too. Like there's a play there because it's out where St. John's and St. Ben's is.
Yeah.
So.
Boy, and if you're in Clearwater, stop by McDonald's Meats and get yourself some of that award-winning bacon.
Absolutely.
Maybe they'll sponsor me if I talk about them enough. That's where my mind went right away when you said Clearwater. I'm, of course, on Twitter and Instagram at Bjorn2Sell. That's Bjorn, the number 2, Sell. And you can find my website by going to bjorn2sell.com. That's a link tree where you can find all kinds of stuff. If you're looking to buy or sell a house anywhere in Minnesota, or for that matter, anywhere in the world, I can refer you out let me know. I am a licensed real estate salesperson here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I hang my license with Realty One Group Choice. I think I covered all the bases so I don't get sued.
What do you have to say? You're not. I was listening to the episode where you were talking about it. You have to say you're an agent and not.
I'm not. I'm an agent. I'm a salesperson / agent, not a broker. In Washington, everybody's called a broker. It's this weird terminology,
right?
Whereas in here, like there is the broker, which in this case is a guy named Paul Ekstrom. He runs Realty One Group. He's a managing broker for that.
See, this is what I'm talking about. It just goes sideways on you. Like,
yes,
all of a sudden, this is just real estate.
Yeah. It's this weird. It's this weird terminology. So I'm a salesperson here in Minnesota.
Yes.
But I can refer out anywhere. And and here's another funny part too. If I was doing this in California, I would have to give you my license number. But since we're in Minnesota, I don't, which is good because I can never remember it.
Yeah, it's 007. Don't let him fool you. And I happen to know this. Kayfabe soaps is also another thing I should throw in there. At
Absolutely.
The end.
I've got a bar of that for you when you leave. Some
Lovely.
of my new special promotional soap that Danny made in my branded colors and whatnot. Kayfabe soaps and sundries. Check them out if you're in the area. Danny can deliver / meet up. If you are outside the area shipping, if it's a big enough order, he would entertain it. But if it's going to be somewhere in the cities or up north, if I'm going to be in that area, let me know. Well, you won't know if I'm going to be in there, but let me know if you want some. I'll let you know when I'm in that area and I'll bring it. It really is good quality, awesome soap. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not the only soap I use. I use a variety of different soaps, but this is one of my most frequent used. I switch it up all the time so my skin doesn't get used to one type of soap. No, that's not why.
You had me. You totally had me. I'm like, wait, what? He's trying. Because there is that muscle confusion thing.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe this was something you learned about in BJJ, where there was some kind of weird, like, you have to confuse your skin to be really competitive.
No, okay. What it really comes down to is I just have a handful of different soaps.
There you go. Sometimes it's just the thing.
But it's high quality, awesome made soap. If you want to support the show directly, you can Venmo me at Bjorn DeSell if nobody's done that yet. But at some point somebody might, and that would be awesome.
It'll happen.
And boy, I think that's all the sponsors. We talked about real estate, talked about Kayfabe soaps. We talked about the Fret Show. I think that
show, yeah. But we're good.
I think we're good. I am working on getting Impact Custom mouth guards back. We'll see if I hear back from them, but We'll see. So, Justin, thank you so much for coming on.
It's so good to be back. I'm glad you're back in the area and happy to be back on the Bjorn Johnson Internet program.
Awesome. We're going to go enjoy a nice Killebrew root beer. Maybe they'll be a sponsor of the show. And check us out on season 1 of What in the Heck Happened to Denny Hecker. Anyhow, thank you for listening. Until next time, be kind to one another.